to using social media to increase training course bookings. The presentation today is based on the PDF file that you can download from the coursesales.com website. The slides in this presentation will be based on that PDF. You need to know where your audience is spending their time when they're undertaking social media to be able to communicate with them effectively. You need to know you've got sufficient resources and that the resources that you're going to put in to your social media campaign, you can actually afford. You may have to forego some other marketing activities to undertake your social media efforts. Got to make sure you got some things interesting to say. Social media is about conversation, so you have to be able to communicate in a way that's able to create a dialogue between yourself and your potential customers. And then finally, it's how you're going to measure success. So how do you want to measure that you've actually been successful in your social media endeavors? So where audiences is there's a variety of places. It's never just one answer. There might be multiple places. Going to something large like Facebook, which has pretty much a scattergun approach to people located on the net, is not necessarily going to be the best way to do it. Ideally, I guess they'd come to you. But they may already be places, and to reduce the effort it takes for you to find that community, it's worthwhile talking to them, asking them questions about where they go to get their information. And do you have the necessary resources? Do you have the expertise available? You've got to have a supporter and an expert role. A supporter role is someone who's a bit of a guru in how to use social media, is able to spend the time to monitor the social media websites, and able to communicate with the expert and let the expert know there's a question here or there's communication here required, your expertise. And using names is a good idea rather than the logo. So using the people's individual names rather than, say, marketing at or training at, that would be a good way to go, because you want to create a conversation with these people. People talk to people rather than people talk to organizations. Got to look for conversational expertise as well. You want to have people who can have a conversation with people. And that sounds surprising to request that or demand that. And everyone has conversational abilities, but some people are less inclined to communication across the internet with people they're not familiar with. And finally, availability. It's important to know that the people you're going to ask to make these communications, such as, for example, the trainers, they do actually have availability to communicate with these potential customers. And finally, can you afford it? Well, here's a table that basically shows you an idea of the frequency with which you'll have to go on and check your social media websites. A few examples there: Facebook, Twitter, etc. And they give you an idea of the total time you can expect to spend on these sites to have a reasonable conversation with people. And you'll be looking at 1 to 3 posts a day. I think that's an appropriate starting point. You may find that you need to communicate more frequently if you've got a lot of people on there, but it's important to right from the outset realize you may have to spend a bit of time. If you were on all of those websites, it would be an hour and a half a day. And it's an hour and a half where you can't spend doing other things. It's seldom do people have an hour and a half a day where they can spend just looking on social media websites without some sort of trade-off. And that trade-off may be that you can't do some of your other activities. If you have a mailing list, for example, or if you have a cold calling list or a group of follow-ups to past customers that you usually do, you may have to forgo doing that to undertake your social media endeavors unless you're going to actually spend extra money on doing social media and extra time. You need to compare it against other promotional activities. So we use this list of criteria to try and standardize the analysis of different marketing activities. So we look at willingness to buy. That's how likely is that the person is going to purchase. Personalization. So if you're communicating with someone directly, and social media is very much about that, communicating with people directly, individuals, speaking to them. But if they've already purchased from you and they're unlikely to purchase again, you've got to ask whether or not you've got anything you can upsell to them, and is that personalization targeted towards that upsell. Request to the customer. So how specific are you asking the customer? How are you talking to them specifically about go to my website and you can buy that product there? Or are you just having a conversation with them? And it all depends on where on that soft to hard sell continuum that you lie with your organization. Of course, the hard sell is go and make this purchase, and the soft sell is merely communication, merely a conversation, doesn't necessarily mention any commercial arrangement at all. Purchase timing, of course, is important. Targeting and cost and time are all very important to measure against other marketing activities. Now, do you have anything interesting to say? Here's a list of topics that we've sort of narrowed down as being things that we think are interesting to say and have proven to us to elicit a conversation. Things like photos of the classes. Photos in the class are quite good because they can get people to tell others to go and have a look at those photographs. Have a look at the Facebook page of CC Learning because my photograph is on there because I attended the training course last week, for example. Examination tips are a great way to get people tuning in to what you're talking about, a great reason for them to go and look onto your website. And of course, originally thought, showing that you're a thought leader within your industry is another reason why people would prefer to purchase from you than someone else who's maybe less inclined to have their finger on the pulse. Free downloads and templates are a great way to get people clicking on your links on your website and wanting to follow you on Twitter, etc. If you've got stuff that is free, stuff that'll make them interested, surveys, tests, competitions, and awards, anything that's going to give them something, give the listener or the reader something, or is going to alert them to the fact that you've won awards and you've won competitions, and this can be a way of increasing and demonstrating the expertise and the professionalism which you can deliver your training in. So you don't have anything to say? Well, don't say it then. Here's a list of things that we believe don't necessarily generate a conversation that's going to lead to bookings or a conversation at all for that matter. Class exam passes or attendance. It might not necessarily be a good idea to communicate this, particularly if your competitors are listening. You may end up communicating things that your competitors go, well, we'll use that to demonstrate how much better we are over yourselves. Next course dates are not necessarily in themselves going to be useful to people. Anything sort of akin to a PR release generally is not going to elicit a conversation. It's information that people would read and digest, perhaps, maybe even close to an advertisement. But they're looking for conversation. Social media is about conversations. It's about providing something useful to people that they will walk away and go, wow, that was great. Thanks very much for that information. So measuring success, it's about improving things. You've got to measure success in different ways. Facebook, for example, have the number of people who like a particular page, and that triggers a measure of success. Number of followers on Twitter, number of minutes viewed on a YouTube clip, or number of views on a YouTube clip. They're also ways of measuring success. Those are the nice, easy ones, and they're good. They're good hard facts to then use to start with, but you might want to get fancy. You might want to start using things like Google AdWords Analytics, for example. Analytics is a great way, and you can use it on your website, a great way to do much more in-depth analysis as to the demographics, the timing, you can even follow them all the way through to making an actual booking, making a registration, or making an inquiry. So if you want to go fancy and start to get real detailed analytics done, then using Google Analytics is a good idea. And gathering it over time is a good idea too. So you want to look at the time change. The change over time will give you an idea of what you're doing well and what you're doing not so well, where you can improve. It also enables you to start benchmarking yourself against maybe other marketing efforts that you've undertaken, or perhaps even competitors or people in a like-minded industry. So here's a case study of work that we did. We wanted to provide a photographical way to demonstrate that our courses are fun, enjoyable, and aligned to providing a really learning environment. We deliver project management training, which is all about processes and procedures which aren't necessarily engaging topics, but we've got to make the training engaging. So we rely heavily on the quality of the trainer and the environment to provide a learning environment for people and to keep them interested for the 5 days that they'll be attending the training. It's a 9 till 5 course, and there are 2 exams, so it's quite involved. So we chose to take photographs of the Play-Doh figurines produced during the course, and we put them onto Facebook. Now, these Play-Doh figurines, we put Play-Doh onto the tables in the classes, and the idea is that the Play-Doh is to help people, particularly the kinesthetic learners of the group, to be able to use their hands and listen to the trainer while they're talking, to do activities, but yet feel as though they're connected beyond just a whiteboard and a workbook that's in front of them. So we looked at it as being a form of sensory learning. We had to persuade people actually that it was okay to play with something while they're listening to the trainer. It's okay. And the trainers had to tell the participants, hey, you don't have to sit still. You can move around if you want to. You can play with stuff. I'm not going to feel as though you're not listening to me. The information will still go in, and you'll still be engaged. So don't worry about that. And this was the outcome. We had artists on our training courses. We never even realized the quality of the artwork that was produced. Was so impressive. We took photographs, and as you can see there, we take photographs with our logo in the background. So the idea is to promote our training logo in the background so that when people see this on Facebook, they link not just the fun activity of the Play-Doh figurines to learning, but specifically to us. And you can see in the background in the larger photograph, which we also put on the web, is that we've got this someone might say boring sense of procedure and process, but then we've also got this fun, exciting way of learning. So challenges, we had a few challenges around this. We had to make sure that we had sought permission, so we updated our booking form terms and conditions to include that we would be taking photographs on the training course, but we also waited before the trainer was familiar with those people in the course and then sought verbal permission to take photographs and check that everyone's okay. But a way that we really engaged people to allow them to have the photographs taken was we actually got them to take some of the photographs. So I handed around my phone and they literally took photographs of themselves or took photographs of things that were going on in the classroom. Which is also a good way to make sure the trainer gets into some of the shots as well. And we found that this was a way that people actually then told others beyond the classroom about the class. You know, it was something novel and new. Hey, we're taking photographs in the class and we produced these Play-Doh figurines. They're great things. Go and have a look at the website. This is the company's name. Great way to get our name out there. Great way to include that, get our logo seen, and a positive experience, I think, from people out there. But not all trainers were happy about having their work photographed. We had to talk about it. Some trainers were concerned about the time that it might take up, valuable learning time on the course. So we had to find ways around that and had to persuade the trainer that things would be okay. So thank you very much for listening to this presentation about social media to increase training course bookings. Feel free to visit coursesales.com for the YouTube clips for future seminars and any downloads that will help training organizations. Lots of videos on YouTube, so feel free to search for those. So I look forward to speaking to you very shortly. Thank you.